Today is a very auspicious day, Disappearance Day of Srila Gopal Bhatta Goswami. Some have observed yesterday according to different calculations of calendar, but anyhow we have to remember Vaishnavas every day, especially on appearance and disappearance. And we are daily remembering Gopal Bhatta Goswami. He's one of our previous gurus, one of the 6 Goswamis. Today he disappeared. Our Gurudev wrote biography, and in this song also, which we are singing now, Kaha Mor Bhatta Juga, Kaha Ko Viraj, where did 2 Bhattas go? One is Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, one is Gopal Bhatta Goswami. So Juga means couple. Like, Kaha Mor Bhatta Juga. Where did they go? In separation grief, Narottam Das Thakur is expressing here in this song. Ananga Manjari Yasit Sadhya Gopala Bhattaka Bhatta Gosaminam Kechi Tahu Shri Guna Manjarim. She who was formerly Ananga Manjari has appeared to enrich Mahaprabhu's pastimes as Srila Gopal Bhatta Goswami. Some say that Gopal Bhatta is actually Guna Manjari, Gaur Ganadesh Deepika. Srila Gopal Bhatta Goswami appeared in 1500 AD, though according to some authorities he appeared in 1503 as the son of Venkat Bhatta in the town of Srirangam in South India. Their residence was in a village not far from Srirangam called Belgundi on the banks of river Kaveri. According to Bhakti Ratnakar, Mahaprabhu gave Gopal Bhatta a dream vision through which he could witness all of his Navadip pastimes. I heard once from my god sister, she came later, she said, "You were very fortunate, you saw Gurudev singing loudly and dancing. I could not see." Then I said, you can get that darshan also. Gurudev is eternal. He is personal associate of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He is always chanting and dancing. When we become eligible, he can give us that darshan. He can give in dream also. Here also, Gopal Bhatta Goswami, he was born in South India. He did not know. He was not directly present in Navadip, but he saw all that lila. Like Vrindavan Das Thakur, in his heart it was revealed. And Valmiki, he was chanting Harinam and sanctified his heart. Then whole Ram Lila appeared in his heart even before Ramchandra appeared in this world. Because Ram Lila is eternal. So Gurudev is also eternal. When we become eligible, we can get that darshan. Though Gopal Bhatta Goswami was an eternal associate of Krishna, he appeared in a faraway place in order to make a special contribution to Lord Gauranga's pastimes. Thus, even though he was living too far to know anything about the Lord directly, he was still able to know, long before he met the Lord in person, that he had appeared and taken sannyas. How he came, he knew. Everything revealed in his heart. Gopal Bhatta did not particularly like the Lord's appearance as a sannyasi. This austere form distressed Gopal Bhatta, who was thus crying alone when the Lord appeared to him and gave him the vision of his pastimes in Navadip. He then took Gopal Bhatta on his lap and drenched him with tears. The Lord then embraced Gopal Bhatta and drenched him with his tears. He then told Gopal to keep all these revelations a secret. Gopal Bhatta's mind was absorbed in a state of intense joy. It's from Bhakti Ratnakar. In 1510, Mahaprabhu made his auspicious entrance to the pilgrimage city of Srirangam, that is South India, you know, the biggest temple. He was invited by Venkata Bhatta, a Vaishnava of the Sri Sampradaya, to spend the 4 months of the Chaturmasya in his house. Now Chaturmasya is going on 4 months of more austere bhajan. Knowing him to be a strict Vaishnava, Mahaprabhu accepted his invitation because he's cooking. He's not using any such items which cannot be offered to Supreme Lord, and he's following all the purity regulations and everything. So Mahaprabhu accepted. In fact, the Lord's pastime of coming to Srirangam and staying at Venkata Bhatta's home was to give his mercy to Gopal Bhatta and his family, for the Lord knew that Gopal Bhatta, his eternal companion, had appeared there from Krishna Lila, Ananga Manjari or Guna Manjari. At this time, Gopal Bhatta was still a young boy. He was fortunate enough to be able to serve the Lord by massaging his feet. Even though he was satisfied with Venkata Bhatta and his family's service, the Lord observed that Venkata Bhatta had an element of pride in his object of worship. He believed that his worshipable deity, Lakshmi Narayan, was the supreme worshipable object, that Narayan was the source of all other avatars, including Krishna, Ram and Nrisingha. His reasoning was that Narayan is never born, while Krishna and Ram take birth in the world. He thus thought Mahaprabhu worships Krishna, the avatar of Narayan, while we worship Narayan, the source of all avatars. This is Apasiddhanta, because according to reality, it is stated in Bhagavatam, Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. He is original. All are coming from him. Krishna is only doing pastime of taking birth. So, and that is why also he had some pride, and because of that, he was not yet fixed in his rasa. That is why we will come to know later. As Madhusudan is the destroyer of false pride, means Krishna, Madhusudan, Mahaprabhu finally decided one day that he would do so for Venkata Bhatta. He asked him in a mild-humored, witty tone, Venkata Bhatta, I hear that no one is equal in opulence to your Lord Narayan. The same is true for your worshipable goddess Lakshmi Devi. On the other hand, the object of my worship, Krishna, has no opulence of any kind. He wears garlands of wild forest flowers and uses peacock feathers for decoration. He is the son of Nanda Gop, farmer, peasant, and spends his day grazing the cows with the other cowherd boys. My worshipable goddesses, the gopis, are also nothing but poor cowherd girls. I wonder, therefore, why your worshipable Lakshmi Devi came to Vrindavan to perform austerities in the hope of gaining Krishna's company in the rasa dance. Venkata Bhatta immediately answered, what is wrong with that? Radha's beloved Krishna is not different from Lakshmi Devi's husband Narayan. Siddhantas tvabedapi shrisha Krishna sarupayo rasenot krishyate Krishna rupam esha rasa stiti. Though according to theological doctrine, Krishna and the husband of Lakshmi are identical in essence, the form of Krishna is superior when analyzed from the point of view of divine sentiment. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Since the divine sentiment in Krishna is superior, there is no fault if Lakshmi Devi chooses to seek his association and performs austerities to that end. Mahaprabhu answered, I am not saying that there is any fault. I agree that ontologically Krishna and Narayan are identical. The difference between them is based on the variety of rasa, transcendental taste or mood. When the Lord performs pastimes of opulence, he is Narayan. When he performs pastimes of sweetness, he is Krishna. She who is Radha in Krishna's pastimes is Lakshmi Devi in the pastimes of Narayan. Thus, when Lakshmi Devi performs austerities to have the association of Krishna, there is no question of her breaking her vows of fidelity to her husband, means chastity, because they are same person, so there is no fault. Venkatabhata said, no, there is no fault because they are one and the same. Mahaprabhu said, yes, that is okay. I'm not saying about this thing. Now further, thus she, means Lakshmi, went to perform these austerities in Vrindavan. But I have another question for you. Why, even after trying so hard through such penances, etc., to enter Krishna's Rasa Lila, was Lakshmi Devi still unable to do so? Venkatabhata was terribly distressed at being unable to give the Lord an answer. Mahaprabhu observed his distress and tried to pacify him by saying, you yourself said that Narayan and Krishna are identical ontologically, but that the superiority of Krishna is due to the excellence of rasas. Narayan is involved in 2.5 of the 5 principal rasas, means Shanta, Dasya, half Sakya. That is with awe and reverence Sakya, not full Sakya. Whereas in Krishna there is complete manifestation of all 12 rasas, 5 principal and 7 secondary rasas. All are there in Krishna. Yes. The 5 principal and 7 secondary sentiments. Since Narayan's pastimes is primarily one of opulence and majesty, his principal devotee is Lakshmi Devi, who also worships him in the appropriate mood of awe and reverence. The same Lakshmi Devi is Radhika in order to heighten the experience of conjugal love. Unless one follows in the footsteps of Radha and her expansions, the gopis, who are the repositories of the transcendental divine love, it is impossible to relish Krishna's sweet qualities. Lakshmi Devi, however, did not follow in the gopis' footsteps, but continued to perform her austerities in the mood of awe and reverence. As a result, she repeatedly found herself in the company of Narayan and never in that of Krishna. By way of contrast, the Shrutis, means Upanishads, followed the gopis in the raga mark and so were ultimately able to achieve Krishna's service in that mood. As long as one continues to think of Krishna in majestic terms as Lord and controller, one cannot possibly worship in the spirit of Raganuga Bhakti. It is shown to us that Lakshmi Devi has her own mood, so she will be in such pastimes and such object. But Radharani and Gopis, they have different mood. So according to which mood one follows, he will enter into that particular lila and get particular seva. Lakshmi did not follow, so she was unable, but Shrutis and also those munis, when they saw Ramchandra in the forest, they were attracted in Maduras to him, and they requested for this seva, but Ramachandra said, no, in this lila I am not accepting, only one wife. But I bless you, you be born in Braja, from the womb of gopis, there you can get that seva. So they also followed in the footsteps of gopis, that is anugatya, then one can get. For Braja Prem, definitely you need the blessing, grace of one Brajavasi in that particular mood for which you are attracted. First we have to do in a regulated way, not with the mood of trying to achieve Narayan Vaikuntha, but in a regulated way because we are full of anarthas and aparadas and all this, and we don't know how. Then gradually by this regulated service under the guidance of Guru and Shastra, then Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, Vidi Marga Rata Jone, Sadhinata Ratmadane, Raga Marge Korano Pravesh. One who will follow Vidi Marg with the view to attain qualification for that, not as a trying to go to Vaikuntha, but as a way of level of practice, Vidi Marga Rata Jone, one who will follow that, Svadhinata Ratnadane, that Vidi and grace of Supreme Lord and Brajavasi, they will give you independence from that, because already your love will be awakened, strong desire to serve Krishna in particular way according to your attraction. Then you will be free from those things because already you will be on higher stage. You will have a natural love. No need to regulate you. Natural love. Then Raga Marge Korano Pravesh. Then you can enter into that Raga Marg. And in that Raga Marg, there is no conception that Krishna is God, Supreme Personality of Godhead. No. That transcendental bhav will enter, that Krishna is my beloved or my friend, like this. But we have to go step by step, as per eligibility. Srila Narayan Goswami Maharaj said, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Sai Maharaj went all over the world to say Krishna is Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now I am going everywhere around the world to say Krishna is not Supreme Personality of Godhead. Means for this you have to aspire ultimately to attain that bhav. But has to go step by step properly under the guidance of pure devotee. Then one can get real thing, not imaginary or imitation. Mahaprabhu said, Krishna has one extraordinary characteristic. By his sweetness, he attracts the minds of the entire world. By taking on the mood of the Braja Gopis, one can attain to his lotus feet. The people of Braja have no idea that Krishna is the Lord and controller. Some think of him as their son and even tie him to a mortar, Jashoda, while others take him to be their friend and climb on his shoulders. The people of Braja only know him as the son of Nanda, whereas in the attitude of awe and reverence, the devotee does not have a concept of such a relationship with him. He thinks, God, and I am his eternal servant. It is my duty to serve him. Otherwise, I will go to hell. I will suffer. So this is the stimulus to serve him. But when one attains that eligibility and gets that bhav, then he will have another stimulus. Krishna is my beloved. And from that natural love, he will serve. One who takes the attitude of a resident of Braja, Brajavasi, will attain Krishna as the son of the king of Braja in Vrindavan. Chaitanya Charitamrita. When the gopis, the objects of my worship, were abandoned by Krishna in the rasa dance, they began to cry in the intensity of their distress at not seeing him. Krishna came to them in the form of Narayan. This happened in Paitagram. When doing Govardhan Parikrama, from there we go, Paitagram. But the gopis simply paid their obeisances and moved on in search of Krishna, showing absolutely no interest in him as a lover, because they already had the taste and sweetness of Krishna they experienced. But our Gurudev told, if suddenly now we could get darshan of Narayan, you will be so much attracted, you will forget about Krishna. Now we are only hearing about Krishna, but not have direct practical realization. That is why, if you would meet Narayan, you cannot do. Like, even if you meet Baraha Bhagavan, so beautiful. But the gopis, they could do this. They offered obeisances and asking him, where is Krishna? Then they went on searching. When Radharani stood before the disguised Krishna, however, he could not maintain the four-armed form, but once again appeared in his form as the holder of the flute. Such is the power of Radharani's love. Krishna cannot hold that. That is why our Srila Bharati Maharaj told, those gopis who were ahead and they saw Narayan, they were going down and searching for Krishna. But those gopis who are in following of Radharani, they were after her, they were going. So when Radharani came, then Krishna became Krishna, and they also got that darshan. So we have to be in the anugatya of Radharani, in following of Radharani. Nandanandan Krishna is the avatari, or source of all avatars. Narayan, Ram, Nrishinga, etc. are all his avatars and expansions. Krishna is Swayam Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Only the Personality of Godhead, the source of all other divinities, is eligible to be designated Swayam Bhagavan, or the primeval Lord. Ete Changsha Kalah Pungsha Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Indrari Vyakulam Lokam Mridayanti Yuga Yuga. All of the previously mentioned forms of the Lord are either plenary expansions or partial expansions of plenary expansions, but Krishna alone is the original personality of Godhead. All of them appear in every age to protect the saints whenever the enemies of the gods disturb them. Enemies of Indra, means of demigods, from Bhagavatam. So the place where this happened is near Govardhan, and it is called Paisa Dham or Paita Dham, which means the place of entering, because Krishna's two extra arms merged back into his body here. That is why also in Mahamantra can have many meanings according to different rasas. Even Ramachandra, you can, Sitaram can be meaning, because for Sita, Krishna is also all attractive. And Hare can mean Hari, and so many meanings. But if you take Hara as Radha, one who steals the mind or heart of Krishna, Haran steals, and Hare is vocative, then Krishna will be there. And then in next Hare Rama, Ramchandra cannot come, or Balaram or Dashara, that Parashuram, and no. If Radharani is there, only Krishna can be there. So Gopal Bhatta Goswami's object of worship is Radharaman. So Ram, in short, of Radharaman, one who gives satisfaction to Radharani, that Krishna is here, that Ram, Hare Ram. Because when Radharani is there, no any other can be there. Impossible. Through the power of Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's merciful association, Venkata Bhatta, his brother Prabodhananda Saraswati, his son Gopal Bhatta Goswami, and all the other members of his family were inspired to give up the worship of Lakshmi Narayan and became engaged in the exclusive devotional service of Radha and Krishna. How is it that Murari Gupta, his worshipper of Ramchandra, he could not be converted to the worship of Krishna, but they were converted? Because Venkata Bhatta was not yet fully established in his rasa, because he had some apasiddhanta and also false pride, so not fully established. Only when one is fully established in rasa, then there is no chance. Like gopis, they bow down to Narayan and went further. And Murari Gupta like this. But he was not fixed, realized in that, because not yet fully pure. But now, by the grace of Mahaprabhu, he attained that. Srila Gopal Bhatta Goswami took initiation from his uncle Tridandi Jyoti, Srimad Prabodhananda Saraswati. We heard about him some days before. Proof of this is found in the Hari Bhakti Vilas. Bhaktir Vilasam Shinute Prabodhanandasya Shishya Bhagavat Priyasya Gopala Bhatto Raghunatha Dasam Santoshayan Rupa Sanatano Cha. I, Gopal Bhatta, the disciple of Prabodhananda Saraswati, who is dear to the Lord, have compiled these most essential and glorious devotional doctrines to satisfy Raghunath Das Goswami, Rupa Goswami, and Sanatana Goswami. Gopal Bhatta's parents were very fortunate, for they surrendered themselves, life and soul, to the feet of Lord Chaitanya. They ordered their son to go to Vrindavan before they left the world, absorbed in meditating on the Lord. Gopal Bhatta Goswami traveled directly to Vrindavan, where he met with Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami, Bhakti Ratnakara. In the case of Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, Mahaprabhu told him, you go home and you serve your parents, their devotees, but don't get married. After they will leave this world, then you go to Vrindavan. But here we see his parents, they immediately said, yes, you go, Vrindavan. When Gopal Bhatta Goswami arrived in Vrindavan, Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami wrote to Mahaprabhu to tell him. The Lord was overjoyed and immediately wrote back, telling them to affectionately take care of him as though he were their own younger brother. Srila Sanatana Goswami compiled the Hari Bhakti Vilas and published it in Srila Gopal Bhatta Goswami's name. Rupa Goswami considered Gopal Bhatta to be as dear to him as his own life and engaged him in the worship of the Radharaman deity. Srila Gopal Bhatta Goswami became one of the 6 Goswamis, but he always kept an attitude of meekness and humility. Thus, when Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami approached him for permission to write Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, he granted it, but under the condition that he not write about him. Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami could not go against the order of Gopal Bhatta because he's his guru, one of his gurus, and thus did not think more than mention his name. Sri Jiva Goswami writes in the introduction to the Sat Sandarbha that he wrote it on the basis of an earlier text by Gopal Bhatta. Srila Gopal Bhatta Goswami also wrote a book called the Sat Kriya Sar Dipika, Light on the Essential Sacraments for the Vaishnavas, for samskaras, birth samskara, name-giving samskara, all those. in relation to the Vaishnavas. Because in Varna Ashram Dharma, there worship of demigods is included when you do that things. But here he wrote how everything in relation to the service of Radha Krishna, even for marriage. Husband will pray to Krishna to remove all offenses from wife, so that she can without obstacle worship Radha Krishna like this. All in relation to the service of Radha Krishna, all this. And then there is another also Sanskar Dipika. There it is about sannyas and all this he wrote. And for this yagyas, for Shrad and all, they are using Gopal Bhatta Goswami's. There's no demigod worship, all in relation to service of Radha Krishna. Thus, his contribution to Gauriya Vaishnava literature was in editing the Hari Bhakti Vilas, preparing the notes for Jiva Goswami Sat Sandarbha, and in compiling the Sat Kriya Sar Dipika. He also gave great joy to the community of devotees by writing a commentary on Bilva Mangal Thakur's Krishna Karnamrita. Amongst his disciples were Srinivas Acharya and Sri Gopinath Pujari. The following story is told about Gopinath Pujari becoming Gopal Bhatta's disciple. One day, Gopal Bhatta went to visit the town of Saharanpur, not far from Haridwar. On that occasion, a simple, devoted Brahmana engaged in his service in a most unpretentious manner. Means sincerely from the heart he was serving, not pretending outwardly, yes, I'm serving, but inside having some interest why I'm serving. That is pretentious, pretending, but he was serving sincerely for his service. He had no children, but desired to have a son to continue that his dynasty or that seva of Shalagram for this purpose, not for any enjoyment. Srila Gopal Bhatta Goswami knew the desire of the Brahmana and blessed him that he would have a devotionally minded male child. The Brahmana promised Gopal Bhatta that he would give him his first son to be his servant and disciple. This son was Gopinath Pujari. So, from this Gopinath Pujari, descendants came, which are now managing Radharaman temple, those Goswamis, because Gopal Bhatta Goswami was ascetic, no children. But from him, Gopinath Pujari, family line started. It is said that Mahaprabhu had such affection for Gopal Bhatta that he sent him his own belt and coping as well as wooden seat which he had used. These items are still worshipped in the Radharaman temple by the current sevaks. When Srila Gopal Bhatta Goswami was visiting the pilgrimage centers of northern India, he found a Shalagram Shila on the banks of the Gandaki river. He took the Shalagram Shila as Brajendra Nandan Krishna himself and worshipped him. One day he thought that if his Shalagram Shila were a deity, he could dress and decorate the Lord beautifully. On the very next day he found that the Shalagram Shila had transformed into the Sri Radharaman deity to fulfill the wish of his devotee. Jai Shri Radharaman Lal Ki Jai. This deity stands alone without any form of Radha standing by his side. Instead, as a symbol of Radharani, a silver crown is placed on his left side. The story is also told in the following way. It is said that Sri Gopal Bhatta Goswami used to daily worship 12 shalagrams. He developed a desire to serve the Lord in the form of a deity thinking that in this way he would be able to worship him in a much better way. The Lord within his heart knew his feelings, and through a rich merchant had many beautiful items used in the worship of the deity, such as ornaments and clothes, sent to him. Gopal Bhatta Goswami began to worry that all these beautiful objects could not be used properly unless the shalagramas took a deity form. That night, he put the shalagramas to rest, and in the morning he saw that one of them had been transformed into the Sri Radharaman deity. So this is self-manifested form, transformed from that. Because Krishna is omnipotent, he can do whatever he likes. When Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami heard that Krishna had so mercifully appeared to Gopal Bhatta, they immediately came with the other devotees for darshan. And when they saw him, they were ecstatic with love. The annual festival commemorating Radharaman's appearance, when he is bathed publicly, takes place on the full moon day of Vaishak. The Radharaman temple is considered one of the most important in Vrindavan. And this Radharaman deity also never went out from Vrindavan. Because of small size, they could hide. But other deities, they went. Radha, Madan, Mohan, Govinda Dev. Srila Gopal Bhatta Goswami ended his earthly pastimes on the Krishna Panchami of Ashar in 1586 AD, means on today's lunar day. His Samadhi temple is behind the current Radharaman temple. By reading Srinivasa Acharya's hymn to the six Goswamis, Shara Goswami Ashtakam, we can understand their glories. Krishna Kirtana Gana Nartana Paro Premamritambo Nidhi Dhira Dhira Jana Priyo Priyakaro Nirmatsaro Pujito Shri Chaitanya Kripa Bharo Bhuvi Bhuvo Bharavahantarako Bande Rupa Sanatano Raghujugo Shri Jiva Gopalako Bande Rupa Sanatano Raghujugo Shri Jiva Gopalako. This is one tune. I like this tune. So this is the first verse of that Shara Goswami Ashtaka. They are all glories. They are always engaged. But our Gurudev used to remember, and also I heard from Srila Bhaktivinoda Puri Goswami Maharaj once in Vienna, they were remembering this. Shankya Purvaka Gana Nartana Param Premamritam Bonidhi. No. Wait, I will open. Shankya Purvaka Gana Nartana Param. 1 second. Because here it is very nicely described. Yes. Shankya Purvaka Nama Gana Natibi Kalavasani Krito Nidrahara Vihara Kadi Vijito Chatyanta Dino Chajo Radha Krishna Guno Smriter Madhuri Manandena Samohito Bande Rupa Sanatano Raghujugo Shri Jiva Gopalako Bande Rupa Sanatano Raghujugo Shri Jiva Gopalako. They are doing in a fixed number. What? Chanting name, fixed number. Not for them, but for to show to us that we have to chant fixed number of rounds in one day. Then when you finish that, when you are doing other works, also you will chant all the time, but some amount is fixed number. So they will do this. Although they are perfected souls, they don't need to do any sadhana, but to be example for us. Shankya Purvaka Nama, Gan, and songs they were singing. Radhe Jayo Jayo Madhavadaita, and these songs, and previous Chandidas and other songs. That time no Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Narottam Thakur songs. This we have to sing. Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Narottam Thakur. Regularly we have to fix. Like for example, 2 Vaishnava Bandhana you will sing every day. Ohe Vaishnava Thakur or Kripa Kora Vaishnava, 2 in one day. Like in Mat, in morning Kirtan and evening, or you will sing. So fixed. Gan Natibih, and they would do obeisance, fixed number. 1000 to Diti, 1000 Dandavat, not 2, 3, 1000 daily. And 2000 to Vaishnavas. And if there is no Vaishnava, practically then you have to remember that Vaishnava and say his Jai. Jai, that Vaishnava name, and you will offer Dandavat on the ground mentally to him. One Vaishnava told me I should do this practice, so for some time I was doing this for 25 Vaishnavas daily. Remembering and saying Jai to that Vaishnava and doing Dandavat. But they were not doing 25, they were doing 2000 daily. And all the time they spent for this. How it was possible? Because already Nidra Hara Vihara Kade Vijito, they already conquered this sleep and eating and working. Krishna says in Gita, one has to be balanced with not sleeping too much, not too less, not eating too much, not too less, and work not too less, recreation, all this. So that is Nidra Har Vihar. Should have balance, then he can practice yoga nicely. But they already conquered this. So they had time, whole day, to directly do all these services. Whole day and night they were doing this. And Radha Krishna Gunosmriter Madhuri Manandena. I remember when Srila Bhaktivinoda Puri Goswami Maharaj was explaining this verse in Vienna, in that Wienerbergstrasse, when he uttered this, he was in bliss. Radha Krishna Gunosmriter Madhuri Manandena Samohitam. When the Goswamis, they are remembering the transcendental qualities of Radha Krishna, sweet, then they were like samohito, they were astonished or bewildered or like this. Here what is? They became enchanted in sweet rapture by remembering Sri Radha Krishna's qualities. I saw that time on the face of Srila Puri Goswami Maharaj when he was explaining this. Because he's experiencing, so he knows what is the meaning of this. When they are remembering the transcendent, means remembering they are directly experiencing the transcendental, unlimited transcendental qualities of Radha Krishna, sweet qualities, then they are samohito, they are astonished, or enchanted. So I worship Rup Sanatan. Rupa Sanatano means together. O comes when it's dual. Sanskrit has dual also, not singular and plural only. Dual. Our Slovenian language also has dual. Not many languages in the world have dual, but we have, and Sanskrit also has. So Rupa Sanatano, Radha Govindo. Rupa Sanatano means Rup Sanatan. Raghuju Go. Couple of Raghu means Raghunath Bhatta and Raghunath Das Goswami. And Shri Jiva Gopalako. Jiva Goswami and Gopal Bhatta Goswami. So if we read the whole this song, then we can understand their unlimited glories of the six Goswamis, how they were doing bhajan. So on today's day, I am remembering his Samadhi Mandir there in Vrindavan. Behind that Radharaman temple is his Samadhi Mandir. So I am remembering his Samadhi Mandir and bowing down to him and praying for his causeless mercy to kindly, out of his own good qualities, to forgive all my offenses which I have committed to his lotus feet, knowingly or unknowingly, and bestow his service of his lotus feet and the lotus feet of his object to worship, Radharaman in Vrindavan and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Tomorrow